I always want to introduce Dean. I was trying to. That's one of the things I get as chair of Wade is to pick a keynote speaker, and usually it's a technical thing. But I just with COVID and everything we went to, I've worked at a lot of places over the years, and I didn't always feel very appreciated by those people I work for. And now in this position, I've heard Dean at a lot of the commission meetings and other meetings. He just really cares. He appreciates every person at every level and every job. And so I just thought for all of us, because we work so well with the commission and they do so much for us that we're sort of he's our main ambassador at that state level for the Conservation Commission as chair. And I just thought you might all want to hear that same thing from Dean, how much he appreciates you. So Dane, I want to say thank you for being willing to be here. You're going to talk a little bit, but Dean's also willing to answer some questions at the end. So don't hesitate, to be ready to put some questions into chat for Dean, and he's willing to respond. So not all of you get that opportunity to ask questions of the top person at an organization. So okay, I'm going to just quit talking and turn it over to you, Dean.
Hey Dean, let's get your audio. There you go.
I'm audioed and you can see my picture. How interesting. What a shiny example of smooth head. Anyway.
Let's get your webcam going there, Dean.
Do I have it?
There you are. Okay, Dean, we'll let you take it away.
Okay, there's a lot of things to say, but I guess one of the most important things I can say is that it's a pleasure to be here and to listen and to answer any questions that you have. When Bill first asked me about this, and he made it really important that I give that we have time for people to interact. And really, from my experience, both in terms of public speaking and just being part of any action, is if we can talk, if we can share, if we can ask, it really makes it much more fun and interesting. So yeah, we're going to have a time for questions and maybe some answers, but it's really important to hear your questions. But I'm going to start out by saying this will be the third keynote address that you've heard today. It started out with Tom, followed up by Carol, and now I'm going to bring in another aspect of it, but you're going to see some similarities in terms of what we're trying to get across. But let me just start out by something I wish some of our other speakers would have done, especially Mike from NACD, and that is just to give us some background on themselves. Mike Crowder, let me just say, is a district supervisor, and he's worked on the WACD board, but he's a hardworking person who cares about natural resources. And I think that's something that many of us, and hopefully most of us, share. So let me just start my personal introduction by saying my appreciation and connection with natural resources in general started out at a pretty young age in Wisconsin when I would spend time on the farm. I've been hunting since I was 4, went raccoon hunting with dogs, feel really comfortable in the woods at night as well as during the day. But I really felt that it was very peaceful out in the woods, as I would call it, or just out in the field. And I really felt the spiritual connection, and that hasn't changed. It's just grown, really. And though many of you might have some strong technical parts to your training and what you bring to the district, I hope that you'll cultivate this connection that you have to all the natural resources that the district is involved with, because that to me has been the payoff that's always been there, that that spiritual rejuvenation, to be out in nature. Moving on, after high school, I went in the Marine Corps. Then I, thanks to the Marine Corps and GI Bill, I went to college, the first one in my family, and got a bachelor's degree in botany from University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, and then master's and PhD in wildlife ecology from Michigan State. And let me just say, those graduate degrees are real important, because in 70, my son was born and in 72, my daughter was born, and that was when I completed my master's and PhD. But let me just say, when I mentioned my education, that the biggest thing I learned, and I was really happy to realize this, is that after over 20 years of formal education, my conclusion was, gosh, I don't know very much. And as was stated earlier, we're learning every day. We learn something every day. Some is fun, some not so much fun, but many of you, if not all of you, know that some of those things that aren't so much fun are the lessons that you learn the best. So that might comfort you in the future, not so much if you're going through the struggles right now. I worked for the Federal Power Commission, was my first federal job out of college. I worked a couple years for a consulting firm doing environmental impacts across the East Coast. Then as I said, I worked for the Federal Power Commission in Washington, D.C. The experience with the agency was great. Living in Washington, D.C. was a low light of my living experience. But from there, I went to the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, and taught 2 years as an assistant professor of wildlife. And then, since that really didn't seem to be what I thought it was going to be for me personally, as far as a professional career, I went to work for the for the Bureau of Land Management out in Portland. That was what brought me out to the Northwest. But when I moved out here in January of '78, my family, we bought a house in Clark County, and I've lived in Clark County ever since. And I'll tell you, I'm very thankful to live in the state of Washington. And in my after a year with BLM, I went with the Forest Service, the best professional job I ever had. First starting on the Mount Hood National Forest as a wildlife biologist, botanist, everything but being a forester, and then went into the regional office where I served all 19 national forests in Oregon and Washington. And believe me, it was the best professional job I ever had. But then I took an early retirement. And right after that early retirement is when a good friend of mine who worked for Fish and Wildlife Service says, "Hey, come with me. I'm going to take you to a conservation district meeting. I'll buy you breakfast." Well, what I didn't know was that he was moving out of town and was looking for somebody to fill his place on the board. And that was in early 1999. And I've served on the Clark Conservation District Board of Supervisors and been their chairman since 2003. Subsequent involvement with conservation districts got me into learning about WACD, about NACD, and about the commission. I can tell you my first question at that time was, what are they doing for Clark CD? And I really started to get those answers when I came to the first statewide meeting. And when I came there, I met some really great people. And ever since I did that, I've been trying to tell my fellow supervisors that that's how you're going to see how this organization really works. Because you've got our partners, you've got the whole family together, the family being the commission, WACD, NACD, and our partners. And you've heard from one of our longest partners, NRCS. Let me just interject one other thing is when I first started with Clark, I thought we were a pretty big district. And the reason I did that, I finally realized, is because we were housed with NRCS and we were kind of intermixed in the office. Our staff of 2.5 permanent and a couple of part-time people. But we had all these NRCS people who I mean, we talked to them, we shared with them, they interacted with us. They were part of Clark Conservation District. I didn't really appreciate the impact of that joint togetherness until we actually parted company. Another partner with us in there, I might add, was the extension agent, extension staff. They were all housed in that same building. They were on, extension was on one end and NRCS and the district was on the other, but we interacted continually. So we were all kind of serving the interests of our clientele. So along with that experience, after going to that first statewide meeting, a gentleman by the name of Wade came up and said, hey, would you like to be an officer? Could you run for vice president of WACD? And I said, well, I retired from the Forest Service, but I've got a full-time landscape business. I've got several employees. So how much time is it going to take me? Oh, Wade's comment was, just as much time as you have. And the short version is that was the beginning of a six-year commitment to WACD. The first 2 as vice president, and then the second 2 as president. And then the funnest, I like that word, funnest. Hear that from my grandkids a lot. That's when you're the immediate past president. That's when you tell everybody what they should be doing, but you don't have to be responsible for doing it. At least that's what I'd tell other people. Anyway, it was serving in that position. That was my first real connection with the commission, because as president, you automatically become a member of the Conservation Commission. Let me just point out, the commission has an elected at the annual meeting. You have a representative from the west side, a representative from the central part of the state, and then a representative from the east side. And right now, I think Larry Cochran, I think he was born as a member of the commission, because I can't remember life without Larry at the commission. He was also, I believe, a past president of WACD. But one thing that we share is a love for the resource and a love for the districts and what they do. And so that's really what gets to what really is, to me, the most important message I have to present to you, and that is, when I started in wildlife, I was a typical biologist. I wanted to be in the woods. I didn't necessarily want to be about people. What I've learned through the last couple of years is that really everything that I'm trying to do involves people. People is the most important. Relationships. Not so much that I understand the ecology and workings of soil or water or wildlife, but it's understanding the workings of people. And that really comes to the second part of what I'm going to formally present, and that's what Bill said, give us some words of wisdom. Well, I can sum up my wisdom, or what I suggest is words of wisdom, in a pretty short phrase, and that is the golden rule. Do unto others as you want them to do to you. Now that makes a major assumption, and one of the first important rules, and that is you've got to love yourself and care about yourself, have self-respect, and then you have to go beyond yourself and say, hey, if I deserve it, I think my fellow person also deserves that. So whether you're doing financials, whether you're doing a plan for timber, for pasture, whatever, you're going to be dealing with people. And how we deal with people is kind of reflects how we deal with ourselves. If we're able to forgive ourselves, we should be able to forgive those we work with, those we deal with, if they make mistakes, because we can see ourselves that, hey, we make mistakes every day. And I sure hope people can, understand and overlook some of them, because overall, my behavior, my actions is to be positive, to support people, to help people. And this, regardless of what job you have at the district, yes, your technical ability, your knowledge is important, but the way that you deal with people, and a major part of that is your communication. And that's something that both the WACD and the commission works very hard to help each of us be better communicators, because that really, we've got two ears and one mouth. So to me, that's always meant I should listen twice as much as I talk. And for me personally, that's a wise thing to remember, because that's usually what comes out of my mouth that gets me in trouble the most, not what I hear. And then the other thing is, like I said, if you love yourself, you can love your neighbor, you can love the person that you're working with at the commission, if you're in finance, but equally important, if you're working with one of our clients or one of our partners, you're going to be respectful of them. You're going to be patient. And when I listen to the awards and listen to some of the comments that people had to make about those that they were recommending for an awards, there was a repetition of being considerate, of being good communicators. They try to help others, have a positive attitude. So really, for us to be successful in whatever job, whatever activity, we have to be respectful of ourselves so that we can be respectful of others. Look into yourself. Be at peace with yourself. Forgive yourself, and you can do that same thing for others. And as Nicole stated, we are really about a lifelong education, lifelong learning. And part of that learning is sharing what we've experienced with the hope that we're going to help those that follow us do a better job than we could ever think of. So with that, I'd like to just kind of open things up for discussion, elaboration, if you will. But it's important for me to hear from you if there's something that I can say or share that might make it easier for you to understand where you're going with your work. What do you say, Bill? They have open mic. I'm not really sure of the technology.
Well,
Yeah.
Nicole, I think, go ahead, Nicole.
I was going to say, I'll help you both out here as well. So just a reminder for all attendees, please put any questions that you have for Dean either into the questions box and I'll ask, or better yet, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you and you can have a conversation directly with Dean, ask him questions directly. So maybe while that comes in, Bill, if you want to maybe start a discussion or question with Dean, and we'll give folks the opportunity to either put something in the questions box or raise your hand and we'll get right to you.
Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, I again, my thought, and I encourage you all to jump in because I know you could probably have some good questions that you might have of Dean as the chair of the commission of just of the unknown of how it works or what we can do with them or how the partnership all works. I think, I don't know, Dean, I'll ask you a first question so you get this role. What do you think at the commission? Is there anything that you think you could do that you can do better? Tom brought up better. Is there something we missed or at the commission of how around the state and how the Conservation Commission works with or coordinates with the other state agencies? Is there opportunity you think we should grab on and can do better at? Anything that comes to top of your mind with that kind of a question?
Yeah, there's a couple points that really relate to some of the points I made earlier, and that is communication. What the commission is doing besides working with districts and things like funding, like things on supervisor performance, standards, elections. We at the commission, you know, the makeup of the commission, there's 10 members. We have representatives from the major agencies, the major natural resource agencies, ecology, agriculture, I'm drawing a blank, Carol. Anyway, I should write it all down. But we have Fish and Wildlife. It's a non-voting member. We have Department of Natural Resources is a voting member. And we have appointed members. One, we have a member who represents land trusts. And we have a member that represents the tribes. These are our governor appointees. And then we have four people that are four supervisors, though they don't have to be supervisors, that are elected by supervisors at the meeting, serving 3-year terms. So what the commission does, we have these representatives, but what we're all working with is working to meet the mission of the conservation district. And that's one of the things I wanted to state. You know, the mission of, I said conservation districts, I meant the commission. The mission of the commission is to conserve natural resources on all lands in Washington state through voluntary and incentive-based programs in collaboration with conservation districts and other partners. Carol and Tom mentioned, and it certainly would be the emphasis that I would want to leave people with, and that is that we are a family. The commission, WACD, the districts, we have to work together to be successful. And the commission, we work to include our partners, our other natural resource agencies, to help them work better with the districts. And if the districts have issues, they can go through the commission to bring to these other agencies. But like WACD, we support training, but we're really there. Our mission is to help the districts meet their mission, and that's our natural resource conservation. And there's many ways that we do it. You know, I would say that the asset that most districts recognize is our area, our regional representatives. We have 6 of those. And in the past, when I first started, Tom was our regional representative for Clark. But Tom didn't have a lot of time because the commission was very, very small in terms of staffing. And Tom was directed because of what were deemed to be higher needs to do a lot of in-house work. He was their IT guy. He's led committees, participated in committees. So I felt that, yeah, when we started out, we had Tom helping us a lot, and then not so much because of other commitments. But we had a lot of support from WACD. The executive director at the time, John Larson, he would be with us often, and there was a lot of support there. Now, the commission is much better staffed, and I'm telling you, I am just in awe over the last several years at how fantastic our regional managers are in helping individual districts. And I can relate to that real personal because Clark went through a real low time. Our current manager, Zora, really lifted herself up, sort of like a phoenix out of the ashes of not getting an assessment, but spending a whole lot of money trying to get one. And her effort, along with a lot of support from the commission and from fellow districts, has really lifted up Clark to where we are just growing and serving better than we have in the past. So that's an example of, and one of the things that I have seen with the commission, that when we do things, we always try to get input from the districts as far as rules or policy making. When we put together committees, we try to include both staff and supervisors on those committees. We really are a family, and that has really helped us grow. And then the other thing I think that I want to emphasize is communication. We have really, at the commission, and with strong support from districts, WACD, we have, I think, if not the best, we have one of the best communication teams I can imagine. And it's very impressive, and our whole point is to help districts be more successful in our communication with our legislatures, because that continues to be a major source of funding. as well as with our partners, communicating with our partners. Probably digressed a few points there, but thanks, Bill.
Sure. So Nicole, are there any other, I don't see any other questions on my chat. Have you gotten any other questions?
Yeah, so Dean, folks did number one. Quite a few people said thank you very much for your service, for your presentation, for what you do for districts. And someone did just have a clarifying question about, kind of said like, wait, district representatives on the commission do not have to be supervisors? So maybe you can clarify.
Yeah, that is in the statute. And Carol, you can quote it for me, but basically you do not have to be a supervisor to be a commission member representing one of the regions of the state, though you have to be elected by the supervisors at the annual meeting. I just remember just one lady who was a supervisor at Thurston for many years. I can't think of her name, but after she resigned from the Board of Supervisors, she was in midterm on the commission, and she was actually reelected again, I believe, at the annual meeting. But she was not a supervisor. Being a supervisor was not a requirement to be on the commission. And I thought that was quite interesting myself.
Yeah. Other questions, Nicole? If not, I have a thought, Dean. Again, it's so there's always a balance between when we're working with landowners on the ground and things about helping them get to their goals, and then sticking with what we know is what the science tells. And I think this part of this training over the next 3 days is all about the science and learning and maintaining the integrity to always apply that and find the best solution for it. So what from your professional experience and education and all that, the importance of following that science and applying that to maintain that integrity of trust. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I actually would address that from the standpoint of some advice that we got from, we being WACD, got from our lobbyist at the time, Mr. Jim Jesernick, who referred to himself as a ground sucking attorney, lawyer. But anyway, Jim's point was the best thing you can tell a legislator is the truth, the facts, because they're asked to make decisions about things they don't have any clue about. So be honest, give them the best information you have. Don't fake it. And so if you go to a landowner, you want to give them the best information you have. And if you find out that there's better, get back to them. I mean, that's what I was getting to. We're human. We all make mistakes, or we overlook something, or we forget something. Don't be afraid to acknowledge that, hey, I didn't do as good as I wanted to do the last time we talked, and here's some new information. But what I did give you was the facts that I knew them at the time. So your integrity in dealing with everyone, your colleagues, our customers, our partners. When you have information, present the best that you have. And I think another thing I'll just reemphasize, and that is being able to communicate it. I mean, yeah, some of us have a lot of technical ability, and we have the ability to help someone do a better job on their land with their resources. And if we cannot communicate our science and technology in an effective way, we're gonna lose them. They're not gonna listen. Well, I don't understand that. Don't give me that. You got to get them. You have to talk at the language, the level of what your customer is, what your audience is. Again, do the best you can. Treat them like you want to be treated.
Yep.
You know how.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. We have another question in. You want to share that question, Nicole, please?
Yeah, so Dan asks, what ideas or needs have come up to the commission in recent years from conservation district staff? And if nothing, how could the commission open that critical channel of communication?
Well, I personally think that both through WACD and through direct input, from my experience, mostly in the financial area, understanding and getting clear on what's required in terms of vouchering and the language and what's going to be legal. I think we continue and have done a lot to make it easier for the districts to understand and to meet their objective. Example, just getting their vouchers and getting their money back as soon as they can, so they can both pay the customer and provide their own support. I really feel that again, I've seen it at Clark. Our financial people can call the staff at the commission, and there's no delay in getting back to them. It's I think the commission, perhaps to their detriment in the past, but I was part of the commission when they decided that instead of hiring someone they really needed, they were going to make sure that there was more money out there for the districts. And so the director at that time did not fill a position they felt they needed badly, just so that he could get more money to the districts. I think that that we do listen as a staff member, as well as a supervisor. These are the regional managers. They are very accessible, and look at the area directors in terms of WACD. We have a role, and I might just add, I'm an area director, have been for a while for Southwest, and we're begging for people to tell us how we can do better. We're available. I could be on your speed dial. I'm fortunate in that I'm mostly really retired, but maybe that'll happen in a year or two when I turn 80. But not quite yet.
Well,
I'm
available. I just wanted to say that too. When I first started managing a little over 4 years ago, and we were talking about supervisors, I had a message from Dean, call me up and tell me what you think. And I called him up, and he's just, a real person, easy to talk to. So I think he's, when you're saying this, it's true. You're open to the conversation, and I encourage anybody and everybody to think out loud. That's how we adjust and share the good ideas we have together. It may not be exactly what we all dream and envision sometimes, but you usually get close to it. So that's how we learn. And again, that's why I talked about the 4 generations, because we're all different. We need to learn how to work and work together. So hey, Nicole, any other questions? No other questions. So I have one, Dean. So one of the commission members, Daryl Williams, Tulalip Tribes. How have you've been doing this for a long time? How have you seen our relationship of working with our tribal natural resources departments around the state? Is that increasing, changing, and how does that work in making sure we're working with them and maximizing those relationships and in the face of just working with the diversity whole whole topic and making sure we're partnering well with them. Do you have any thoughts on the history and where we're at today and how we move forward with that?
Well, I have my own, things that I like better than others, and we have had at Clark an associate who was the spiritual leader of the Cowlitz tribe, Hannah Engdahl. She was with us with her husband, who was a supervisor. Both had been involved with tribal relations across the country in their professional jobs with the BLM, but they were very active at the district in terms of making us aware of that we were neighbors to the tribe and how we could work better with them. And I think what's happened since Roylene has been here is there's been a renaissance, not only for the state, but also nationally, in terms of our recognizing opportunities and to understand each other and to work together. The best training I've ever been to was a big tribal training up north. The first one that I can remember that was statewide, and it was just fantastic. And what I walked away with is, wow, Native Americans, their value was the same as mine. It was that spiritual connection that they all started with. But that went further into their daily life and to their priorities for their whole political and organization. And so I think both at the state level and at the national level, I think NACD has a thriving tribal relations, tribal group that I've always made a point, if I can be there, to be part of that. I think that we continue to look for ways to grow together. To have the tribes as part of our family, I think, is just where we want to go, and where we wanted to go for a long time. And certainly NRCS and NACD continues to strongly foster that. So yeah, we're going to get better.
Awesome. Okay, I think I'm going to do one more question, Dean, and then we'll let people have a little bit of break before the classes start. So my last thought, because you've been in the federal government and now as a commission member and supervisor, all these things, and having your own private business. So just a couple thoughts on customer service and how we do that, and the value of customer service, and a couple of your tricks you might have learned over the years that we can share with staff and CD employees at any level, any jobs, because you wore a lot of hats. So just a couple thoughts, and then we'll turn it over to Nicole and give people a break before the classes start at 11.
Well, I can tell you that one of the best parts of being a member of the commission is when we go on our trips around the state for our meetings, because it's a 2-day experience. The first day is the one that is just mind expanding, and that's where you visit projects on the ground and you see the relationship. First, it's a personal relationship, and then it's the professional, technical relationship between the staff at the district and the customers, if you will, our clients, the private landowners that are trying to be better stewards to the land. That that experience is just as rewarding as I could ever want, to see how district staff and the supervisors at the district as well work to help landowners be good stewards. I'm just so much looking forward to that opportunity again, because and we have had many partners. We've had visitors come on these field trips, and it is where you see what the district employees do with the landowners to help them be the stewards they want to be. I mean, those landowners are so proud of what they were able to accomplish, and those staff members that work with them are right there just beaming. And so that's part of the payoff of working with this organization in our 45 districts, is that wow, you get to see what you do on the ground. I mean, one of the things that wasn't so rewarding is that a good part of my Forest Service career, at least on the Mount Hood, I was involved in the national planning adventure with the U.S. Forest Service. And so instead of being a field biologist or joining my field biologist, I was in meetings on planning. And I can tell you those are important. But there's just nothing more rewarding to me than to see a project accomplished on the ground, and the people involved they just have a glow when they can talk about it and show it to everybody. It's pretty wonderful.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you, Dean, for taking the time and being our keynote today and sharing your thoughts, and thank you for your leadership on the commission. And because I know you show up, you're always there, you're always participating too. You don't just sit there, you participate in every meeting. Sometimes it's just to say good job to people that you're almost 2 years. So, okay, you better go get that call. It could be customer service.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dean.
Thank you.